Good day, and thank you so much for joining us today on episode 3 of Welcome to Livingston. My name is Don Putkela.
And I'm Angela Putkela, and this is Welcome to Livingston, our new podcast that focuses on the county and all the great things about it.
Yeah, I'm really excited today. This is episode number 3, so we're kind of trying to get our feet wet and get things underneath us and such. So, one of the things I just wanted to start off today and just kind of talk a little bit about, here we are in September, and everyone has started school back, and people are starting to change their schedules up. So we were sitting down and we were talking about what are we going to talk about today? And one of the ideas that came to both of our minds is this idea of decluttering.
Absolutely. Because this is kind of, as the seasons are shifting, that summer turns into fall. I think everybody is affected by that in different ways. And you have a lot more stuff, the summer stuff. What are you going to do with it? You're thinking about the colder weather, and everything's everywhere, and trying to be organized and trying to not get overwhelmed by stuff.
Well, yeah, and I think it's a topic that everyone
can relate to.
Definitely everyone can relate to. Everyone, just about anyone you talk to has too much stuff, right?
Right.
And one of the things with us being real estate agents, realtors, we go into people's houses, and one of the big topics we talk to them about, surprisingly, is what to do with their stuff, how to make their house look as nice as possible. And a lot of times, one of the things we're looking at with that is, there's sometimes for some people, there's a difference between living in their house and having their house ready to show, or having their house ready for other people to walk through it. And a lot of times that really shouldn't always be the case.
Right. But I would say 99% of the time, or at least 90 something, that's what we encounter. Because everyone lives in their house, right? And a house that's being lived in isn't necessarily what a buyer is as interested in, right? In terms of what appeals to them. They want to walk through a magazine. They, and they should, when they're making a purchase like that, they want it to just shine.
Right. But I'm sure people listening out there can relate. How many times you're going to have people over for dinner? Or you're going to have friends over to the house, and it's, oh my gosh, I have to go through the entire house and clean the house. And there's rooms that people just aren't allowed in.
Yeah, this is true. This is true.
There's even, we had our kids cleaning their rooms this weekend because, one of the things I thought we'd bring up at the beginning is this idea of September, of that change in so many people's lives because the seasons are changing. Football's starting.
Yeah, sports.
Sports are changing. School is starting. And, here in Michigan, we think of Labor Day as being that big switchover. I saw a post on Facebook that had, last week of August and everyone at the beach, and first week of September and everyone at the cider mill, and how quickly that change happens.
Right.
So, one of those things, I thought that the best way to go about this is to start off by kind of talking about what is the process that we go through with our sellers to talk about getting their house ready, but how does that relate to someone that's living in their house and isn't planning on moving?
Right. Yeah, more times than not, that people aren't moving yet. But to me, probably, one of the more interesting things is that once someone has decided they're moving and we are working with them to list their home, they do a lot of the work just to make the house as beautiful as it can be. And they say, wow, I didn't even know my house was this beautiful. And it's like, oh my gosh, everybody should have a chance to be able to live in their house during the time where they aren't even thinking about selling it yet, and just appreciate it for how beautiful it can be.
Exactly. So, I think to start, how do we go through that process? We sold our house ourselves, and we had that about a year ago. Yeah. And we had that same discussion of we did all this work to get the house ready to sell. And then for that brief instance in time, the house was perfect.
Like out of a magazine.
And we're like, wow, this is so nice to live in. Everything is cleaned up. But we didn't do it for us specifically. We did it to get it ready to leave.
Right.
And
it's harder to leave.
Right. I think people should be able to do that for themselves.
Yes.
So that's what I wanted to talk about today. And one of the things, as everyone out there listening to this, we're going to discuss where in Livingston County you can donate items. Because one of the issues that people have is they say, well, what do I do with all of this? Where can I donate it? These things are nice and I don't want to throw them out.
Yeah, seems to be a waste,
right.
But there are some great organizations in the county that can really use those items.
Exactly. So I think the first thing I would say is when we walk through somebody's home, you need to have a broad scope of what you're doing. And, I think the first thing we talk to them about is we walk through room by room and then we give them a list and we say, hey, these are the A items. These are the items that you need to do. And those items are a lot of times those key decluttering items that I wanted to talk about today.
Great. Go ahead, get started.
Absolutely no problem. So I think the first thing is you need to have an idea that you're going to purge.
Right.
You're going to get rid of a lot of items because, one of the things we talk to our clients about is you will fill the space of your house, no matter how big your house is.
How big, how small, it all fits in together.
Right. And we've talked to a few clients who've moved and 3 years later, they've filled this bigger house that they thought they were going to have a ton of room in because they didn't think about getting rid of those items. Mm-hmm. So you have to have a mindset of, do these items bring me joy? Do these items matter to me? And being able to get rid of them.
Marie Kondo and the Konmari concept there. No, which is awesome. I mean, it's, if you get a chance, I don't know what streaming it's on, but if you're getting into that mindset, that's a great one to check out because it starts from sort of a different place where you have sort of this methodical way through and it kind of starts with, does this item bring me joy? Because there have been some items I've held on to over the years that like, why do I even still have this? But then at least with the KonMari stuff, I understand why. Because it's, maybe there's memories involved or it makes me happy. And it might not make sense because it's not something I use that much. But, where other items, it's like, what? This used to give me joy, but now I don't even really care. This isn't who I am anymore. And right. So you can allow it to move on to someone that is going to care more about it.
Right. I mean, one of those concepts of if you haven't opened up the box in 3 years, odds are the things in the box are something you don't need anymore. But the KonMari method, they categorize stuff. So they start off with clothes first. And then they go through books and papers and miscellaneous items. And then they work those mementos in at the end because
those are the hardest.
Well, they're the hardest. And if you start with those mementos, you end up sitting there looking through stuff. And at the end of the day, you've gone through one box.
This is true. And even, it's taken years, but here we have kids and I'm trying to teach them how to clean and be as efficient as possible themselves. And I always start with make the bed first. Probably because that was like the easiest thing that has the most impact on it.
Right.
But then you can always use that area. So when I did try the Marie Kondo thing about a year ago when we were getting ready, that really was helpful because as I pulled clothes out, I needed a place to put them that, wasn't going to fall down and so forth. So at least making the bed, having them there and sorting through the items that I knew for sure I wanted to keep, the items for sure I knew I wanted to get rid of, and then trying to focus in on the ones in between. Those were the ones that were a little tricky. Exactly.
And I think the concept of that connection between how you're getting ready to sell a home and how you're getting ready to declutter to live in a home, one of the things I think about is the whole stuff and hide method.
I grew up with that.
Yes, you did.
We danced around the house, me and my sister, stuff and hide, everybody's stuff and hide.
Right, but that works maybe for people coming over.
Right.
But it doesn't work for you living your best life in your house.
Absolutely.
And it also doesn't work for getting your house ready to sell, because people do look in cupboards. They do open up the closet.
Yeah.
You can't lock the room and say, this is the room that I didn't clean
The mushroom room, right? We have a client. I love her. She is so awesome. And she calls this her mushroom room because that's where she stores all the shiitake. And everybody kind of needs some of that of like, oh, geez, at least the rest of the house can look great, but this is the room. If there's that extra clutter and stuff, that's maybe a place to start, but I guess long term, better to go through the stuff.
It's better to go through the stuff. But I think in terms of the same concept of going room by room, looking at these rooms, and you're in a room, and, so often people don't rearrange furniture. And then they go to rearrange the furniture and they're like, oh, look, this is what the original color of the carpet was underneath this.
That's true.
So this idea of giving yourself a fresh start, going into the room and saying, how do I want this set up for me to live my life? And I know on another podcast I talked about when clients ask us about doing improvements, and our answer is always the same. We want you to do this for you. This is for you to enjoy the house while you have it. Maybe they're talking to us a year before they move, 2 years before they move. And you always want to do it for yourself. And in terms of decluttering, I think the idea is you're doing it for you so that you can enjoy the house. So, we go through room by room, talk about rearranging the furniture, trying to do your decluttering in power sessions if possible.
Yes.
Getting through as much as possible.
Because how many times, and I'm notorious for this, my sister I know also, is where you get started and there's so much going on and you're really making progress, but then the phone rings or you have to run out and take care of an errand or something, or you just run out of steam. And then it's so much worse because you're halfway through it.
Right. And, putting yourself on a timeline. So one of the things I did want to bring up is this renting a dumpster.
That's a great idea.
We've had quite a few clients rent a dumpster. And when we were preparing to move, we actually rented 2 dumpsters. We had one.
Not consecutively.
No, we had one that we were just decluttering and cleaning through, the beginning of the pandemic, where I was looking for something to do and there was so much stuff in the house. I'm like, I'm going to rent a dumpster and I'm going to start doing a deep cleaning of the house. And I thought we did a really good job.
We did.
I filled a whole dumpster with stuff and donated things to a ton of different places because we'd been in the house for so long. But then when we prepared to move, 7-8 months later, surprisingly, I was able to get a second dumpster.
And fill it right up with no issues.
Because my mindset had changed on what was important to keep.
Yes.
So I think it comes back to having that really key mindset in order to get into that. I think that renting a storage unit is an interesting concept. But
a lot of people do it.
A lot of people do it, but I have talked to clients who have a storage unit full of stuff that they don't go to the storage unit anymore.
Right.
So it was a way to get it out of the house, but not a way to actually declutter and go through it.
Yep.
So I think it's great for,
I think as a tool for a finite period of time.
Right.
Because then at least you can get maybe in terms of those mementos or some other large items out of the way to allow you to declutter. But in terms of long term, it's almost like a clutter tax, really. If you're going to have a storage unit longer than a year,
right,
then you're paying money to store it. At that point in time, let's help you sell your house and we can get you a bigger house. If you need more room, that you have a long term storage unit, that's the decluttering is really a much more important and urgent piece.
100%.
It's harder to get storage units because so many people needed them for in terms of as people are moving, but between the storms that we just had last month, both storage units and dumpsters were a little harder to come by. And I think maybe there were so many basements that had flooded. And so for people needing to take care of that or, removing furniture until that gets done, that's where it makes sense for a storage unit,
Exactly. And going back to dumpsters for a second. So there are quite a few companies in Livingston County that do dumpsters. And you want to think specifically about the type of dumpster that you want. So, there's wheeled dumpsters, that are a little harder to get items into. So if you have really heavy items, you may not want a wheeled dumpster because then you're lifting those things. We had a dumpster come dropped on our driveway. They put plywood underneath it and such. You want to be careful about that. Talk to the company that's bringing it out. Make sure that they're going to put plywood down. Last thing you want is to put a dumpster in your driveway and then unfortunately have the driveway cracked or scratched or such. So, be careful about that. But most of those companies do a really good job with that. I know that Home Depot does a cloth dumpster that you can get and put in your driveway. So then, you pull it up and start to fill it and then they'll come take that from you. But one of the things I like about that is you rent it for a finite period of time. So you have it for 5 days, 7 days.
You are on the clock.
10 days at the most, right?
Yeah.
So then you're like, okay, it's my time to do this. And what I loved about having this big dumpster in the driveway is all of a sudden it was my goal of, okay, I spent X dollars for this.
Many more dollars than I thought they were.
I am filling every inch of this dumpster with items. So, I think that is a great way to motivate yourself and to get a good workout as well, because it was hard work.
Yes.
But, I went through the attic. I was just getting rid of items. Be careful. You don't want to be putting oil, old paints, those sorts of things. There's donation sites for those that you can go through, look online, talk to the local police department, talk to, the Livingston County Environmental Department. They'll give you sites and dates that you can drop those things off.
You sign up for a date and time, and then that's when you're able to go and bring that back.
Because it's not like it was 30, 40 years ago when people would dump oil in the corner of their backyard.
Oof, yes,
you want to dispose of those things the right way. I know that I didn't even have it on my list, but Livingston County Recycling, we had a fridge that had died. And if the fridge is running, you can contact DTE and they will come pick it up from you and they'll give you a credit on your upcoming bill, which is a great thing for appliances at work. But if it's not working, Livingston County Recycling, I was able to go donate that to them and bring that in so they could dispose of it at the right way because it still does have Freon in it.
Right.
So that is a good thing as well, that just doing a Google search on items and where to take those items is sometimes the biggest impact or the biggest issue.
Right. And you have a great list of what items you can donate to what organizations within the county.
Yeah,
right?
So let me go through some of that here and ones that we have experiences with and such. So the Livingston County Humane Society. Great organization. You can go in there and, they have pets that are in need of being adopted and they have a lot of services they help out with. But one of the things that some people don't know is you can bring in old blankets or stuffed animals or toys that you're donating to be for the pets for chew items and such.
Right.
So they're right there on Door Road. Again, call because of COVID and such, make sure what days you can drop off. With all of these, it's a good idea to get an updated list because sometimes they get so much of an item that they say, you know what, we're not taking this item right now.
Fair.
So that's a great one. La Casa is a great organization. They have a resale shop in Howell. It's on M59 over by where the Kroger is.
Yep.
And they take donations. I talked to them on the phone. They're really looking for women's clothes, all sizes, but bigger sizes. They do take men's and children's clothes, but they want like new to new. They don't want old items. They don't want, pants with holes in the knees and such. They will take current home decor. So they don't want 1960s called and they want their kitchen back.
Yeah.
And they'll take furniture on a case-by-case basis. But they said with furniture, you want to call them up, get their email address, and send them photos of it. Because, she laughed on the phone, but she said they have 3 flowered couches right now.
Oh, dear.
So, that is a great place. Salvation Army is another good one. I know I've gone down Grand River certain times a year. If it's getting close to tax season, you can see the lineup of people donating there.
Or even during the pandemic. I feel like there was a period that they weren't open, but then once they were, then everybody had been working on cleaning their houses out. And so huge lineup there. So that's where we had happened on to La Casa. And
yes.
It wasn't as crowded. And it's still good just to be able to get the stuff that you still have in your house that maybe don't fit you or your lifestyle anymore, but there's still some good use to them. And it would be such a shame to throw out. So by donating it, you do the right thing, makes you feel better. It's a tax deduction as well if you do deduct. So these are all positive things.
Yep. And again, on both of them, always check online for what they're looking for right now. Neither of these first 2 take books, which I was very surprised by. But the Howell Library does do a Friends of the Library where they take book donations and then they resell them during, I think they have 2 or 3 sales a year. That those proceeds go towards the library to help fund different programs. So you can go to the Howell Library website, you can sign on through a Sign Up Genius, and you can donate up to 3 boxes at once. So I think that is a great option for getting rid of books.
Be careful when you're lifting those because a box full of books can be awfully heavy.
Yes.
It's your public service announcement there.
Yep. And there are local used bookstores as well that you can go in and you can donate books to them, or if you have ones that are semi-valuable. I know our son had Michigan Chillers books that he was able to go in and get a credit towards buying other books. So if you're looking to donate books and you're an avid reader, that's an option where you can go in and donate and get some new books.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing as well.
Or start your own local little mini library, right? They're
yes.
little, you see those in some of the neighborhoods. They're so cute. But I feel like anytime I see them, they are just chock full. So there's rarely any room to put something new.
But if you have a few books that you want to donate to one of those, that's a great option as well.
Right.
I don't know the website address, but I know there's a website you can go to that gets a map of where those are. There's one at Genoa Township Hall. Right at the front entrance.
Yeah, there's tons in the different neighborhoods we encounter as we show houses.
Love Inc., Second Chance Resale. There's quite a few resale shops in the area that they're all tied to a different charity, and they're all looking for donations as well. So know that if these are lightly used items, it's always better to find a donation site than to throw those out.
Right.
One of the things I did want to bring up is car donations. It's surprising how often I'm talking to a client and they have a car that's no longer running in a back garage.
Yes.
And finding time to donate that where, it's, I don't want to say it's sad, but I want to say it's unfortunate that here this car has been darkening half of the garage because they didn't have time to donate it. And we go back to living your best life in the house that you have, where if you had gone and donated that prior, you free up that space.
But here's the part that, maybe I have a little bit more pack rat in me of the items I keep of like, well, but maybe, and I'm not a car person, but I can relate to that because maybe I'm going to fix this or I'm going to use this for this project or, it's halfway through and it's large and it takes up room, but there's this vision and this hope, right? And maybe what it boils down to is if you want to do that project, if that's something that's important to you, take the time and do it. Work on it. That's something that can bring joy to you. I think through the time of the pandemic, we realized how important hobbies were. And even in terms of lifestyle of houses, that people are looking for different things than they used to be able to. That if it's sitting there and it's been sitting there, whether it's, a car that doesn't work or a piece of furniture that you want to refurbish, or so many different items, what are you waiting for?
Well, that's why I think you need to do this on an annual or semi-annual basis in terms of do this once or twice a year. Because, we talk to our clients and we walk them through the house and we find out that, these are things that have been hanging out there for a long time. Oh, I've been meaning to get to this project, or I've been meaning to clean this room, or okay, I'll declutter now that I need to declutter. So one of the reason I wanted to talk about this, or we wanted to talk about this, is that you don't have to wait. Right. You can do this now.
The more you do now means that's the less you have to do later. Can I speak to my dad put a little comic on my Facebook a week ago, and as an older person talking to a younger person, son, all this could be yours someday. And it's the picture of the garage that is chock full of stuff. And it's like, oh my gosh, what a feeling. As someone gets older, they don't have the ability to go through all of those things. So, and so then of course it's their kids that are going to get to do that. It's just sort of what the comic refers to, which isn't a wonderful idea either. So pretty much preventing all of that is do a little bit now and a little bit at a time.
Well, and to speak to that with that comment, realtors don't take pictures of inside garages unless it's a workshop garage, because that's where a lot of that stuff ends up a lot of times.
Yes.
So, but it's something that you can do now. So to go back to what we do with our clients, I like to tell our clients that a person will make a decision about whether they like or they don't like a house within 10 seconds of either getting out of the car or walking through the front door. And a lot of that has to do with curb appeal, but a lot of that has to do with the decluttering, with the cleaning. Take care of those items now and you can value more what you have and enjoy it.
Right. It's easier to see it. How often are we going through stuff? We were rearranging the kids' rooms last weekend, and our daughter is like, oh, I forgot that I even had this. I love this outfit. Where's this been, or this toy? And, even if something brings you some joy, there may be some things that, have fallen away that you could really use. Or how often is it like, oh, I have a cherry pitter. Where in God's name did I put that cherry pitter? Or whatever the item is. If you're organized and everything has a home and you've gone through the process, then that makes living your best life that much easier.
Right. Or, they get a new item and instead of getting rid of the old item, they box up the old item because they might use it at some point in the future. And I'm guilty of that. I have a new set of pots that I got last year, and I believe there's a box in the basement of an old set of pots. So those
I think you weren't ready to let them go.
Right, but that's something that needed to be donated, right?
Right.
So you have people, empty nesters, they're getting ready to downsize. You have young couples that are first-time homeowners, or they're getting ready to upsize. You have families with kids where they're going from one kid to two kids, or one of the kids going to college. So, there's all these stages in life that in every single one of those stages, you should be thinking about decluttering. You should be thinking about reprioritizing your items within the house so that you can enjoy the items you have, and you can put those items that you find pride in and that you find joy in prominent places so that you're able to experience them. Because, I see so often that, someone got something and they didn't have a place to put it. So they set it aside saying, hey, I'm going to work on this later. And then a year later, the item that they thought they wanted so much is still sitting in a box because they didn't get the time to find a place to put it in the house.
Right.
So I think going through that process really can help out. And how that all connects to real estate is that do that process now. I know I said it before, but enjoy the house. Go through room by room and decide what you're going to update that year. And sometimes it doesn't need to be an update. It needs to be, I'm going to purge, I'm going to clean, I'm going to rearrange. A new coat of paint and rearranging the furniture can make all the difference in the world.
Absolutely. Reset, refresh,
And remember to take before and after photos, because we always remember.
Always. We're in the middle of everything and I go, oh, I never took the before pictures, did I? So even if you're not planning to do it right in that moment, if you think of it, just take pictures of how your house looks, just so that when you have them and you won't forget.
Well, you remember that before and after, and you realize how far you've come within each of those rooms and the true impact you had on that.
Right.
Makes
a big difference. So that way, when the time does come and you are ready to sell, then your life is so much easier because you've already been doing a lot of that work all along the way.
Yes. And the list that I give you is a little bit shorter.
Right. Because there are some clients that, holy cow, there's like one or two things and it's like, you've been rocking this. We always try to give them props when they do that. But I would say most sellers, especially ones that have lived in a house for some time, there's a lot to be done.
Yes, because we give them an A, a B, and a C.
Mm-hmm.
So the A list is always really long. Those are the things that need to be done. They have to be done because they make a big impact. The B list is, if you get to it, I'd love it if you got to it. And then that C list is for the overachiever. So, all of those things are really important to go into. So, just to wrap it up, I kind of wanted to say, check on those local charities. Every church has a pantry kitchen. There's so many charities that they call it a closet or what have you, that they're looking for items, and they need our help to have those items to help them help the people that they're trying to serve. So being able to be proactive to look out for those and ways that we can help, because, everyone has gently used items that they're not using anymore that could have a second life, that could be beneficial to somebody else. So just go through that process and then, think about that method, the Konmari Method broken down into 5 steps. Discard by category, break your category into subcategories if need. Keep items that spark joy. And after you finish discarding, organize the space thoroughly and completely and do it all at once.
And whether you're doing one room a week because you have a busy schedule and that's what you have time for, that's fine. Or taking a time we tend to do over kind of that New Year's period, start to the new year. It ends up being some of our best spring cleaning, where we'll just completely redo a room with reorganizing the furniture. And so it's a set period of time where you can spend a long time on doing those things.
Right. And start early. Don't let it get out of hand.
Right.
Oh my gosh, I've seen so many rooms that have gotten out of hand.
But getting in motion, and anything you can do is a victory. But decluttering, number 1, is the thing we encounter with just about every single seller.
Exactly. So if you're listening to this and you have places that you say, hey, they're in need of this item, we would love to hear about that, because that way we could share that with other people. We could put it on there so that everyone knows those places that they're able to donate their items to.
Absolutely. So good. Well, I think this has been a great session. It ties into Livingston, it ties into real estate, and it's useful. That's really been our biggest focus, is to be able to bring helpful information to people. So we hope that you have found some benefit and something educational about our session today.
Yeah, so thank you so much for listening. Please check us out. We would love it if you would subscribe to our podcast. And reach out if you have any ideas or any questions. We would love to help you out in any way that we can.
Great. Thanks for joining us today. See you next week.